the day, 9:30 a.m. We're about to go live, and it's going to be a full worship experience. Worship music, what you would experience on a Sunday. We're just doing it in homes all over the city, all over the community. And today we start our brand new series, This Is What We Do. And honestly, I think it's worked out perfectly because we're going to talk about who we are as a church and what it means for our city and for our community. And there's no better time to talk about this. And so I want to make really, really clear as we head into this worship service today is that the church is alive and well, and we're having church. Like, the church was never confined to four walls in a building. We talk about that all the time. We are the church. You are the church. And so don't think for a minute that in this season, these next few weeks, that somehow we're taking a break from what God wants to do. And in fact, I think this may be the opportunity this season for God to do something extraordinary. And so we're coming expectant. We're coming ready to watch God move. And we believe that this is an opportunity for the church. So I want to encourage you right now, if you haven't yet, make sure you're following us on social media, Facebook. Yep. Make sure on Instagram at Centerpoint FL.
Yeah, make sure you get our CC app.
And go right now and share it. Share something on Facebook. Let somebody know on Instagram. Heck, go let a neighbor know right now. I mean, they're not doing anything else, but we are having church. We want you to gather, engage. You may feel crazy, but lift your hands in worship in your living room. Talk back to the screen. But let's watch what God does over these next, not just today, but these next weeks.
And on live stream, if you're on our app or on our website, we're going to be at 9:30 and 11, and then every 2 hours after that. And then on Facebook Live, we'll be at 9:30 and 11. Next week, we will have YouTube set up, so we will be live on YouTube so you can watch on your smart TVs. But the other thing that we wanted to let you know about is what we've got in store for your kids, because we don't want them to miss out on their worship experiences. So if you go to our CC Kids YouTube page, and all of these links will be up on our Facebook pages and websites and everything. But if you head over there, all of their messages and their worship videos will all be uploaded to the YouTube channel. And then also, if you hit the comment section, you'll see all of the small group questions. And you may be wondering why we have the small group questions on there, because you and your family are now the new small group. Yeah. So yay for you. So here's what we want you to do is we want you to take pictures and videos as you're watching the messages, as you're doing the worship experiences with your kids, as you're asking them their questions. If you tag us at CC Kids FL, every week we will be doing a drawing, and one lucky family every week that we are online will be getting free pizza delivery from us. I don't think from us. I think from maybe Justin and Rachel. I don't know.
You're getting pizza from somewhere.
You're getting pizza, and it's going to be free. Coming. So let's go with that. All right, y'all. So we can't wait for you to join us on there with kids.
Yeah, and just maybe you've heard this information already, but all of our services on site are canceled for the next 3 weeks till March 29th. We'll reevaluate as needed. And so all other large gatherings we're not having. We are going to, again, gather together as a church all over the city, and we're going to be letting you know how you can connect, how we can help our community. And so there's a lot that's going to happen. Here's what I want you to know is that we want to encourage community groups, if you feel comfortable, to continue to meet. If you're a leader, you should have received information about how you can meet digitally, and we've given you some tips on that. But again, make sure that you're following us. You're looking for updates. There's a lot we're going to put out this week about how we're engaging our community and city.
We got to hurry because they're ready for worship. So worship team can go ahead and come on out. We're going to get started. We hope that you guys enjoy this service, and we can't wait to connect with you. We'll see you soon.
All right. Love you guys.
Good morning, Centerpoint Church, wherever you are. We are so glad you're tuning in with us this morning. Why don't you go ahead and worship with us?
Whoa.
shed your blood. So I'm gonna live like my shame is gone. I won't be shackled by the way I was. Oh, I'm gonna live like my chains are gone. Gone. Now my sin is dead and gone, and I sing hallelujah. Done, done. He is risen and is done, and I sing hallelujah. Whoa. Praise is a weapon that will overcome. Oh, I'm gonna shout like the battle's won. Fall back down because your time is up. I'm gonna live like the stone is gone, gone. Now my sin is dead and gone, and I sing hallelujah. Done, oh done. He is risen and is done, and I sing hallelujah. Come on, let's sing this together. How great the power of the blood. Sing it. Oh, 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 I am the righteousness of God. Oh, oh, how great the power of the blood. Oh, sing I am, yeah, righteousness of God. Sing, oh, sing, gone, gone. Now my sin is dead and gone, and I sing hallelujah. Done, oh done. He is risen and is done, and I sing hallelujah. Yeah. Gone. Now my sin is dead and gone, and I sing hallelujah. Hallelujah. Done, oh done. He is risen and is done, and I sing hallelujah. Come on, sing out. Oh, 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 oh. One more time, say. Oh, 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 sing out. Oh, oh, oh.
Hey guys, we're so excited you've joined us online today. We know things are kind of crazy in the world right now, but that doesn't mean that we have to stop praising, we have to stop worshiping, we have to stop everything we do. We believe and we trust in God and His sovereignty and His plan, y'all. So we get the exciting opportunity to worship together virtually this weekend, and we can do so much more together online even than we could in person. So reach out to your friends, reach out to your family, and let them know that like God still reigns, God's still on the throne. We're gonna keep singing about it right now, y'all.
You were a lover before time's beginning. You gave your love freely, withholding nothing. Jesus, my Jesus. You carried the weight of the world on your shoulders. You stopped at nothing to prove you were for us. Jesus, my Jesus. It's extravagant. It doesn't make sense. We'll never comprehend.
you so much for the opportunity to gather here together online and just spread throughout the world your love and your joy, and to worship together and to feel connected no matter how physically far apart we actually may be right now. We're still a church, we're still a family, God, and we thank you for showing that to us over and over and over. And we want to declare through this next song that you reign supreme, God, that we praise you, and you are the one who gives us all those blessings, God, and we thank you for what you do for us. We thank you for all you do. In your name.
What gift of love could I offer to a king? What weight of worth could be held within my offering? When he alone is worthy, a glorious song is inscribed upon my heart. This treasure held in an alabaster jar, I pray to bring him all the glory. Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise him, all creatures here below. What sacrifice could be equal to his own? The cross of Christ has declared that there is none I owe. Yet I know I owe him more. Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise him, all creatures here below. Praise God from whom all blessings flow.
We get the opportunity this morning to just talk to him, to declare who he is. He goes by so many different names. They're all mighty, they're all powerful. We're going to praise him this morning. We're going to tell him who we believe he is.
Our Father God, the infinite, the matchless King, magnificent, the living Christ, the servant Son, the prophesied, the saving one, the Holy Ghost, gift from above, the faithful friend, the seal of love, this life, this heart, this song to him, my own.
Hey, give it up one more time for our worship team. If you're at home right now, you can do that right where you're at. Is just give it up and thank them for leading us this morning in worship. And I just want to thank you for wherever you are joining us. My name is Bryant. I'm the lead pastor at Centerpoint. Many of you may be joining us as a church for the first time today. So I want to encourage you, if you're watching online, right below the video, there is a nice to meet you link. If you would just click on that, submit your information. We'd love to actually send you a free gift as just a thank you for tuning in and being a part of this. If you are watching maybe via Facebook Live, just send us a direct message with your information, your name, where to send it. But we'd love to just give you a free gift to just say thanks. But here's what you need to know about our church and our gathering. Wherever you're coming from, you walked away from church a long time ago and you haven't wanted to step into a church. This is a perfect opportunity for you today. Or maybe you're a longtime follower of Jesus. Our goal is to tear away every unnecessary barrier for people to find life and freedom in Jesus. And we talk a lot about being an alternative to church as usual. And so that means that we just want to lead people to Jesus. We're not about trying to change your behavior or maybe address all the things that have kept you away from church. We just want you to know there is hope. And right now we're in the midst of a time where it could be easily to be fearful. But what we believe is that we serve a leader who came back from the dead. And when that's the case, there really is nothing to fear. And so we're so glad you're joining us today. This may be how we gather for the next few weeks. And we just want to make it clear. Maybe some of us have gotten into the false assumption that it was solely about gathering in a place and sitting in a seat every weekend. And maybe this is an incredible opportunity to understand that that was never what the church was to be about solely. Gathering together is powerful, and we're doing that today. But we are the church, and so we're going to give you information this week about how you can love your neighborhood, your city. But this may be the greatest opportunity you've had in a while to go, you know what? Who's around me that I haven't connected with or ministered to? And this is an opportunity just to check on some people, encourage some people, pray with some people. And so here's why these next couple weeks we're not holding services in a physical location. Number one, we just want to honor authority in the request of our governor. A gathering as large as our gathering, it's just wise that we don't meet together. And what we've said is this, if you haven't heard it, if somebody asks you why we're not meeting in a physical location, because we want to love our neighbors by protecting our neighbors. And this has nothing to do with fear. It has everything to do with wisdom. And number three, we talk a lot about what does love demand. And this is what love demands of us in this season. But make no mistake, we don't believe that this is about fear. This is about honoring those around us, loving our community, and believing that through this, God's going to do an incredible, incredible work. So over the next couple weeks, we're encouraging you, follow us on all of our social media, Instagram, Facebook. If you've got a kid that's in our CC Kids, if you go to our Instagram at CC Kids FL, all of the information for worship, for small group, all of that's going to be there. They're going to lead you to our YouTube channel. We want you to engage with your kids today around worship and around discussion. And so church is happening all over the city, and God's using it. And we are in a few moments going to move into our brand new series. And we believe that what we had planned is what God had planned weeks and months ago, and we're continuing with that plan. And today, our series is This Is What We Do. And my really, really good friend and our next gen pastor is about to come and deliver that message in a moment, Justin Elam. And I believe that he's got a word for our community and our city. And I believe it's so relevant, honestly, maybe now more than ever. What you need to know about the next couple of weeks before we start this is all of our large gatherings are canceled. We're encouraging community groups to continue to meet in homes if you're comfortable. If you're not, we've sent out information to our group leaders of how to meet digitally. But man, we want to continue to be the church. Check on people, encourage people, make sure you're reaching out to your crew, make sure you're staying connected. And many of you are going to be asking about Easter. Here's what you need to know about Easter. We're having Easter. Like Easter's happening. We're celebrating that we serve a resurrected Jesus. And we don't know how it's going to go down yet, but it's going to go down. And so we want to encourage you to start inviting now. And so you don't have access to these because you're not in the building. If you want to drop by our office, you can get them, but you don't even need these. Go to our website. All the information is there. If you go to centerpointfl.org/Easter 2020, all the information is there. You can also share our Facebook event page. That's an easy way to invite friends. Go on any of our social channels and share stuff. Text a friend, but let them know Easter's happening. And if it happens via our online experience, we believe God's going to move and he's going to save hundreds of people all over our city. So begin now to invite a friend or a family member. It's going to last thing and I'm going to be done. But 2 weeks ago, we were in our Relationship Goals series, and a good friend of mine that now lives across country shared the series online with another friend, actually a family member that was really struggling. And they listened to the message on baggage. They watched and participated via online experience. And after it, they texted their friend, who I believe actually is a niece, and said, hey, I've struggled with hurt and baggage for a long time. How can I begin the process of healing? And I tell you that story to tell you this. God's moving all over our city. And just you sharing this might be the open door for what God wants to do in a family member, a friend, or a neighbor. And so let's believe in what God's doing. Our president declared a national day of prayer today. And so we want to pray for our leaders. It's easy to be critical right now and politicized, but instead we want to pray. We want to pray for wisdom. We want to pray for God to move. We want to pray for the church to be the church and to love people around us and to not be fearful. And so I want to encourage you. Every week we talk about worship through giving. Today you can continue to give. If you're watching online, right below this video, there is a link that just says give online. And I just want to encourage us as the church. This is not a time to be fearful. It's not a time to panic. It's not a time to get greedy. It's not a time to begin to hoard. It's a time actually to be more generous than ever. And so I want to encourage you to be generous financially. If you are one of the people that give in person every week, you can mail that giving to the church offices. But let's be generous in all that we do, including our finances, because one of the things that our community needs right now more than ever is a strong church. And so let's be a strong church. Let's pray together. Let's give financially. Let's worship. Let's let our neighbors know that we are alive and well and Jesus is moving. And we believe that's what's going to happen today. So wherever you're at, join me in prayer. Right now, we're going to move in to the first part of our series. Jesus, we thank you for what you're doing in this moment all over our community, all over our city, all over the world. There's people that right now literally are watching from all over the country and from different areas. People who are going to engage in this via unfiltered radio through Centerpoint all over the world, thousands of people. And so we believe that you've ordained this moment, and we are not fearful. We are expectant. Jesus knew this all along, and he is going to use this and leverage it for his glory and ultimately our good. And so we are coming, expecting, anticipating. I pray that you would use Justin in a powerful way to communicate your truth right now. And God, I thank you for the church. I thank you the church was never confined to four-walled. It is a movement, and right now we get a chance to be that movement. And so God, do your thing all over this place. And I pray even in living rooms and in kitchens and in dens and in offices right now, wherever this is being watched and people are gathering, that they literally would feel and experience the presence of God. And so we're asking and praying this, and we're believing it in Jesus' incredible name. Amen.
Hey, good morning, church. It's good to be with you. Man, how y'all doing in church today? Man, you're doing so good. You're doing so good. My name's Justin. I'm the Next Gen pastor here, and it is so good to be with you and be in your living room with you. Hopefully, it doesn't look like this mess, but man, hopefully you are having a great morning where you can stay in your PJs. Some of you aren't even wearing pants right now, and that's a good thing, because if you showed up here not wearing pants, you might need to find a different church, because that's not the kind of church it is. I'm the Next Gen pastor, and before we jump into our brand new series, I just want to let you know about our CC Kids ministry, because for a lot of you, if you're like my wife and I, we have 3 kids who love CC Kids. Man, our crew at CC Kids kills it every single weekend, providing an incredible opportunity for your kids to hear about Jesus and connect with Jesus. And the cool thing is, through this season, your kids are going to be bummed that they don't get to go to church, which is really cool, because you want your kids to like church. But what's even cooler is you right now as parents and grandparents and other authorities, other guardians over the children, you can make a difference in their lives if you go to either our Facebook page or our Instagram profile for CC Kids. It's Centerpoint Kids on Facebook, and it's CC Kids FL on Instagram. You can go, and in the post that we just did in our profile on IG, you can find a link to our YouTube channel for today specifically, videos for elementary and for preschool, some worship videos for your elementary kids. Also, in the description of those videos is where you can click to go find the small group guide. And the small group guide, some of you are like, I can't teach my kids about Jesus. And here, you totally can. You just take it, click it, follow the link, and ask them questions. And just sit and talk about it, because that's exactly the same thing we do every week at CC Kids. So I want to make sure you have the opportunity to do that. And also, last thing I'll say on this is we're giving away a family pizza party for people who post and tag us in that stuff. So be part of the community. For all of us, honestly, even through the next several weeks with us doing church online, what I'd say is this will be either as personal or as impersonal as we make it. Right, like we're going to do everything we can to create a sense of community and talk right to you and let you know like we are here for you. But also what I encourage you, just like you do every single weekend and week in, week out here at CC, is interact with us. So comment on things. There's something that is said, whether it's a kids videos or through worship or through the message that we're going to share. Like if something resonates with you, comment on that, post that, do that, so that way other people can respond. Just like for a lot of you, you will talk back, you'll clap your hands, you'll do things to help other people feel comfortable and know, man, that was impactful to me. You can do the exact same thing here. And what I also would say is make an opportunity to connect with your neighbors and your friends. Like next week, have a pajama party. Make some cinnamon rolls. It doesn't matter if they're from a can or from scratch. That doesn't matter, right? But make some cinnamon rolls, hang out, sit around, have some mimosas, have some orange juice, whatever you want to do. Just hang out and chill and be the church right in your community. Because that's what we're talking about over this next couple of weeks. One of the things that we're going to talk through is what we do as a church, who we are as a church, and simply what we do. Now, for all of us, no matter who we are, what we do is based on the things that we value. Right? Like you take that to like your health. You exercise because you value, maybe it's looking good, maybe it's feeling good, maybe it's living into old age. Like some value system is dictating what you do and how you regard, how you handle your health. Maybe it's your finances. Some of you value all the new and latest things, so you go out and you buy those things. Some of you value having financial security for the future, so you save money. Like what you do with your finances is based on what you value. Or maybe it's relationships. Again, like what you do with your life is based on the things that you value. And one of the things I think for most of us that we value above everything else is we value acceptance. Like we want to be accepted by peers. And maybe you're in middle school or high school right now. If you're not, think back to that. For some of us, it's going to be a lot longer of thinking back. I'll give you a minute. I'll tell you guys, every single week I get to speak here, like we're going to have fun in church. And it doesn't matter whether you're in the room with us or in your living room. I'm just going to assume everything I say is funny for you. So I'm just going to receive all the laughter through the TV and have a good time in church. So think back to high school, middle school. How many times did the things that you liked changed on the people that you liked? Like you think about that, like you're over here like, man, country music is horrible. I hate country music. And then you see a cute whoever and they like country music. And pretty soon you end up liking country music. Or you're over here like, man, sports ball is dumb. I don't even know how they keep track of score. I don't even know any of that stuff. And then you see a cute whoever over there and they like sports. And you're like, oh, well, I'm going to change who I am because you want to be accepted by them. And whether that's in high school or middle school with relationships, whether that's in job interviews, like you put the best foot forward in job interviews or on first dates, where you say, hey, like I'm going to be great. And for a lot of us, first dates can be really, really bad or they can be really, really good. They're really, really bad if it's awkward. Maybe you're set up by a friend and it's just painful and you can't get out of there fast enough. Or it's really, really good and that's the best date you ever go on with that person because they're their best foot forward because they want to be liked by you and you want to be liked by them, so you hide all your stuff. Right, but the reality is, like all of us, like we can be honest, all of us have like a mess in our lives, right? Like all of us hide, we try to cover up, we try to clean up the mess that we have, right? And hopefully your living room doesn't look like this right now, because if it is, you're probably by yourself. We can tell this is definitely a family with young kids. In here, and here's the deal, like we want to hide our mess. We want to cover things up because we want to be accepted. And sadly, a lot of us do that with church too. Because what has happened in our culture, if we can be real and we can be honest, is a lot of times the church talks about love but expresses judgment. And maybe that's your story. And maybe you're thinking through, like, is this a church? Even like you got invited by some neighbors and you're here watching this on the TV and you're like, man, the worship was great, but like, what kind of church is this? And this is a great series for you to be starting with us, because we're talking about what we do. And one of the things that we do, the biggest thing that we do, we talk about this all the time, is we take away every unnecessary barrier for people to find life and freedom in Jesus. Like, that is who we are. That's what we do as a church. And with this, the biggest thing is Jesus. But I'd say the second biggest thing is people. Like, we want people to find life and freedom in Jesus. We don't want to simply create a space and hope anyone who, like, no, we want to be very specific. Like, you right now who are wondering if you'd be accepted in church, and you're thinking, man, how much of my mess do I have to clean up before I can come when you all are back gathering together? Like how much do I have to clean up before I can come be part of the gathering? What I'd say is, you don't have to clean any of it up. Except for, like, wearing pants. You do need to wear pants at church, okay? So don't get too comfortable with that. Again, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to think you're laughing. You're on the floor right now, rolling around, having a good time. And this is one of the things that we do primarily because we want to tear away every unnecessary barrier so people can find life and freedom in Jesus. One of the things that we do as a church, probably the primary thing we do as a church, is that we walk towards the mess. We see people who are broken. We see people who don't have it figured out. And we see people who are coming in who, honestly, their lives are a mess. And whether we see it or not, honestly, for some of you, you come into church and it seems like everything's perfect, right? Your social media accounts seem like it's all like rose petals and rainbows and puppies and all sorts of fun things. But here's the truth. If you have a puppy, you know it's not always fun all the time. And you know that your life, if you're honest about it, is a mess. And if I'm honest with you about my life, I have a mess too. And this is the problem where, honestly, again, with church, so many times we go into church and we think we have to clean things up. But if we look through the life of Jesus, which I think is one of the most powerful things we can do, so we look through the life of Jesus, we see that Jesus constantly walked towards people's messes. He didn't try to stay away from it, and he addressed it in a number of ways. There was like this guy, maybe you know the story, this guy he was rich and he was young, and most likely he's powerful, and he's like, man, he's awesome. Like, if you were hiring somebody, you want to hire this guy. If you were trying to date someone, trying to get someone to marry your kid, you would want this guy to marry your kid. Like this guy had it all figured out, and Jesus talked to him and saw his mess and said, man, you have so much. The problem is so much of your stuff has you. And like, you have all this money, and money's not a problem, but loving your money is where the problem is, because there won't be any room to love anything else, basically. And he addresses this guy's mess. The guy who seemed like he had it all together, maybe that's you. Or there's another woman, a story where this woman's caught in the act of adultery and is brought to Jesus, and all these religious leaders are around them saying, man, Jesus, what are you going to do? How are you going to judge her? How are you going to condemn her? And Jesus gets down with her and pulls her face up and says, hey, I'm not going to condemn you. Because I see right now, like, you're living in your mess. And I'm not going to condemn you, but I also love you enough to not just leave you where you're at. And you don't have to clean up your mess, but I will clean it up for you. So Jesus constantly is walking towards the mess and helping people and embracing people in their mess. And there's one story in particular where Jesus is traveling, and he's going from a southern part in Israel to a northern part in Israel, and he stops and he talks to this woman. And some of you know the story. It's called the woman at the well. Maybe you've been in church for a while and you're like, man, I know that story backwards and forwards. Or maybe this is the first time for you. And what I'd say is we're going to have the chapters and the verses here, the scripture we're going to have right here. I'm not going to read all of it because it's a lot of verses. And I only got so many words I can say today, right? But you can read it. I'm going to give you the highlights through it. You can read it. I would encourage you, pull out your Bible. Some of you, your Bible's on your phone, and you're watching right now on your phone, so I get that's kind of tough. So we'll have it right here. And this is the deal. So Jesus is going from Judea, which is a southern part of Israel, and he's traveling down from Judea up to Galilee, which is like a central part. Like if you saw a map, he'd be going a couple miles north. And he has to go through this area called Samaria. And as he's walking through Samaria, he stops at this city named Sychar, and it's near this area where Jacob, this like ancestor of the Jewish people, he had some property and he gave it to Joseph, and they had stuff there, and they built a well there, so it's like a common area where people, hey, we're traveling, and we stop at this well. And the thing that's crazy is Jesus got tired as he was journeying. And he sits down at this well, and it's about noon, and it's not this big mess. So he sits down at this well, And it's important to not acknowledge Jesus got tired because it shows that Jesus was human. See, sometimes we get this idea of Jesus, he just kind of like floated around, like crossing people and sprinkling holy water on people. And like, we don't think about the fact that Jesus went through puberty like every other dude. He had like that crusty mustache for a season in his life. He had pimples. His hair had bad hair days. Like, he was like all sorts of things. He got hungry. He got hangry sometimes. Like Jesus was 100% man. But also, I believe Jesus was 100% God. And the reason that's important for us, because how many of us get tired in life? Like how many of us, even as we're trying to control our mess and we're working through things, like how many of us, like you're exhausted and you feel like, is there anyone that knows how I feel? And what I'd say, even through this season where we're doing online church, like this could be one of the most powerful launching pads for your life to find community by inviting people over to your house that know and experience the same stuff as you. This is why my wife and I, we have a group of people, there's 5 or 6 other couples that most of us all have young kids, and we can talk through and we can hug each other and cry with each other and laugh at dumb things that our kids are doing and go through the grind of raising young kids together. And it's important to know you have people that can associate with you, and Jesus is one of those people. Where you're tired, you're worn out, but Jesus also gets tired and worn out. So he's sitting there, and as he's sitting there, a Samaritan woman comes over to him to draw some water, and he asks her, hey, will you give me a drink? And John, the guy who wrote this, the guy who was an eyewitness of the accounts of Jesus, he wrote this letter so that people would know who Jesus is and believe in him. And again, John was an eyewitness of Jesus dying. And if you watch somebody die and then you want to get a bunch of people to believe in that person, there's probably something special about that person more than just the fact that they died. So John helps us out with parentheses. He said, hey, the disciples, we all went into town to get some food. And the Samaritan woman looks at him and says, you're a Jew and I'm a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink? Again, this is where John helps us out with the parentheses, because it says, for Jews don't associate with Samaritans. Now, to help you with some of the context with this area, the reason why Jews don't associate with Samaritans is because there's a real racial tension there. Where Jews and Samaritans, like Jews would refer to Samaritans as like half-breeds. Because these were people, an entire city, entire group of people, a community of people that half their family was Jewish and half their family was Gentile, which is not Jewish. And what would happen a lot of times with the family of Abraham, Isaac, or with the family of Israel, the Jewish nation that eventually became hundreds of thousands of people, is that God promised them, if you follow me, I will bless you. Like if you follow me, if you do the things I tell you to do, things are going to be really, really good for you. And honestly, most of the stuff is wisdom. Like if you're just wise in life, I'm going to bless you. Things will be great. If you don't obey me and you walk away from me, then what I would do as a loving father, I am going to discipline you with the intention to always bring you back to myself. It's never discipline to distance you from me. It's discipline. I'm going to bring you back. Parents, think about this. A quick side note. As you discipline your kids, make sure discipline brings the child back into relationship with you, not away from you. That's why even when I discipline my kids, one thing we do almost every time, and it's not every time, because again, we got a mess, we're working through stuff. We want to hug our kids and tell them, I love you no matter what. And I don't say that because that's original with me. I say it's because that's what God tells me. So the discipline will always be to bring Israel back. But what happened is a lot of times that discipline looked like a foreign powers, empires, armies coming in and occupying Israel and really trying to break apart their culture, break apart everything they would have. And what happened most of the time is like the Persians came in and then the Babylonians came in and they would start breeding with the Jewish people. They'd be given and taken in marriage with each other. And it was kind of the tactic is, hey, we're going to colonize these cities. And we're going to basically outbreed this people group. And then from that, you would have a pure line of Jewish people that didn't intermarry. And then you'd have an impure line, is the way they would look at it, of these people that were racially divided, where one half is Jew, one half is Gentile. And I think this is just like my thoughts. I think one of the big reasons that Jews hated Samaritans because the Samaritans reminded them of all the pain and disobedience in their past. And every time you looked at this person, you would know, man, my ancestors went through horrible things, and we don't have things because of what our ancestors did, and you're a representation of that. And even furthermore, she's looking at Jesus as like this Jewish teacher, and she's thinking, man, like Jewish teachers don't associate with women hardly ever because they're so worried about their reputation and thought maybe something inappropriate is going to be happening, so I won't even talk to women because people might talk about it. But Jesus didn't really care about his reputation. He cared about this woman. And he goes to her and he sees her And this is what he said, which is crazy. He says, if you knew the gift of God and who it was that asks you for a drink, you would ask him for a drink and he would give you living water. Now she's kind of puzzled because she's like, wait a second, we're at a well. I'm from this area. Like, where's this living water? And she even goes into, hey, you have nothing to draw from the well. Like, this well is really deep. You have nothing for that. Like, where can we find this living water? And she's asking living water in the sense of, like, at that time, living water meant any moving water. So like a river, a stream, a brook. And so she's thinking in her mind, like, I'm from this area. You're not from this area. It's pretty obvious. I go to this well because this is the place to get water, to find nourishment, find provision, and to take care of me. And you're saying there's somewhere else in Samaria where I can get living water. Like, I can get satisfaction somewhere else. And then she goes on to ask, hey, are you greater than our father Jacob? Again, this ancestor that we had, are we greater than him? That he drank from this well? And like, how are you, like, explain to me how you know where stuff is that he didn't know. Like, and she's really confused. And Jesus looks at her, and he says to her, everyone who drinks of this water is going to be thirsty again. But whoever drinks the water that I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water that I give them will become in them a spring of living water welling up to eternal life. And Jesus actually isn't talking about water anymore. But she didn't get that because she asks him, hey, can you give me this water so I won't be thirsty and have to keep coming out to draw water? Like, she's not sure what he's talking about. And Jesus did this all the time, and he wants us to be able to understand his messages, where it's not just true, but it's really clear and it's helpful for your life. And Jesus is taking something that is common and teaching a profound truth with it. Jesus did this all the time. And he's saying to her, hey, you are thirsty in a way that Gatorade or water could never satisfy. I have what you're thirsty for. And she's trying to figure out, what is this water you have? What is this source that you have that I would never be thirsty for again? And Jesus, before he tells her what it is, he asks her, hey, go call your husband and have him come back to me. Like, go get your husband and come right back to me, and then we'll start talking. And she said, I have no husband. And Jesus thought, hey, you're right. Like, you're right, you have no husband. You're right that things haven't worked out. And Jesus in this moment is going to her, and he is talking to her about her. And he goes to her mess and he addresses it and he says, I know you don't have a husband. You've actually had 5 husbands, and the guy that you're with right now is not even your husband. Now, even according to our current standards in today, like that's probably about like 4 too many men in her life, right? Like, and here's the reality. Some of you have walked through the pain of a divorce and the pain of dysfunction, the pain of a loved one dying or a spouse dying. That's an incredible pain. And what Jesus is telling her, I think, in this moment is not just that I know your story, it's that I know your struggle and I know you. Like, I know what it's like when he died. I know what it's like when you didn't know what you're going to do to make ends meet, and you found yourself out on the street and you were begging for food and you were humiliated because you were not pure anymore. I know it's like when the first guy came along, he started showing you affection and attention, and you responded to him and you thought, oh, like this could be love. And you realized pretty soon once you got in there, like, yeah, he provided for you, but he also destroyed who you were, and you had to run away. And I know what it's like when he hit you. I know what it's like when you had to walk away from that and then you saw people staring at you. I know that you're out here at noon when it's one of the hottest parts of the day because you were not accepted by anybody else. I know what it's like when you feel dirty and when you feel broken and when your soul is crying out as tears stream down your face as you go to bed at night, asking God, is this all there is in life? Jesus says, I know. And this is the thing that's so powerful, is Jesus saw through her mess. He saw right past it, and he saw his mission, which is to seek and to save the lost. So yeah, I know you got all this trash. I know you got all this stuff that's happening. I know, like, you're embarrassed of all this stuff, and you're church people, so you're trying to hide this stuff, and you're trying to show off your Chick-fil-A. And like, I know you're trying to get to a place where you were accepted by everyone around you, but I don't care about all that mess because I have a mission here in life. And that's to lay my life down for those who need it. To find thirsty people and to give them the living water that satisfies. To do something spectacular in this world and unleash a power that the world has never seen and never able to duplicate and never able to manufacture on their own, where we can have people going out and embracing people in the mess. And this is what we do as a church. This is what we do. We look at people, we don't see their mess. We see God's mission to seek and to save the lost, of which we are part of that group. And it's crazy because then she goes on, she says, "Sir, I can see that you're a prophet. And our ancestors, they worship on this mountain, and you Jews, like you guys said we shouldn't worship here, we should worship somewhere else." And what she's doing is the same thing we do so much of the time. It gets personal, it gets uncomfortable, and you're sitting in your mess, and you're trying to hide stuff and cover up, and like, no, it's not that bad. And like, how many of us, for real, you have friends over your house right now to watch church, and you want a crazy cleaning spree before everyone got there? Because you don't want people to see your mess. And what she did, she took the attention off of her personal life and put it back into, we can almost say like a political or a theological, doctrinal, a corporate argument of, hey, let's not talk about me, let's talk about us and you and me. And like, let's talk about big picture stuff because it's getting too personal, it's getting too painful for me. And Jesus goes on to talk to her about how the Samaritans are worshiping in this mountain, and they're not totally sure what they're worshiping. The Jews worship at the temple because that was God's plan, is that the temple would signify and indwell the work of God and the Spirit of God, the power of God. So people would have to go back again and again, sacrificing at the temple to satisfy God and to find acceptance in God. But one day there's going to be one giant sacrifice that covers everything. You won't have to need the temple anymore because God's power, God's Spirit will be indwelling us, and we will go out and we will be the temple. And that's what we're talking about. We are the church in the community. It's not about buildings. It's about you right now at home, sitting with your family, sitting with your friends, sitting by yourself and saying, I am the church. And this is what we do. Because here's the reality, our building cannot walk towards the mess. It's our gathering, the people around us, that we walk towards the mess. And Jesus talks to her about the question she has, a theological question that she has. But then she goes and she says, hey, I know that there's one coming, the Messiah who's called the Christ. And when he comes, he's going to explain everything to us. He's going to make everything clear. He's going to make everything right. We're going to understand all the things. Like, I know when he comes, it's all going to make sense. Which, can we just be honest? Like, so much of life doesn't make sense. Like, she did not grow up hoping that she was going to have 5 husbands. And think about, through those relationships, through her mess, how often does she find herself thinking, man, this does not make sense. And how many times do you find yourself saying, this doesn't make sense? I need someone who has greater knowledge and information and wisdom than me to explain things. And the Messiah, the promised one, he's called to be God, and he will be able to explain everything to us. I think for you, there's things in your life right now that you go, man, I need an explanation. There's some dysfunction, there's some hurt, there's some thirst in your life. You're like, I wish someone could explain this to me. And what I would say is, wow, you are unique. The brokenness and the thirst that you have is not unique. And the pain that you went through could be unique, but the cause of the pain, the root cause, I think, is not unique. See, because the Messiah had to come to restore everything because everything's broken. And that's why I can say with confidence that you have a mess and I have a mess, because I know I have a mess and I know everything's broken. We're not supposed to have diseases. We're not supposed to have death. We're not supposed to have dysfunction. But when humanity turned away from God and walked away from everything that is good and right, the only thing left to walk towards is things that are broken and messy. And we can't help but walk towards that direction. And this was crazy. She asked, like, hey, the Messiah's going to come. And then Jesus declares to her, which is, this is really unusual for Jesus. He like never did this. He said, I, the one speaking to you, I am he. Like, I am the Messiah. And what's crazy is, again, there were times in Jesus' life, as you read through even like John's account of Jesus' life, people wanted to like make him the king. People wanted to like bring him up and rally like this political revolution. And Jesus would be like, no, I'm good, and just kind of walk away from that and just go around and kind of be in obscurity and kind of be out in the outcast of society. He didn't come out with big banners that, hey, I'm the Messiah. He wasn't telling everybody. He just told her. And this is the issue for us as followers of Jesus. Even for some of you, as you're questioning and wrestling with faith, you're trying to figure things out. Maybe you're agnostic or skeptic or atheist. Like what I'd say is, this is the issue you have to solve. Is Jesus Messiah? Is Jesus the promised one? Is Jesus God? And what I'd say is, sometimes in our culture, like because we still live in a fairly like Christianized culture, we can look at things and say, well, Jesus was a good moral teacher. Jesus has a lot of good advice. Like Jesus was like a leadership guru, maybe if you're in a leadership. Jesus, like I like some of the Jesus stuff, but not all the Jesus stuff. And here's the problem. If you say that Jesus was just a good moral teacher, honestly, that just doesn't make sense because Jesus never claimed to be a good moral teacher. And even his claims would make him a bad teacher, not a good teacher. This guy named C.S. Lewis, a brilliant guy, like really smart, like a brilliant, like the level where he was like a literary scholar at the University of Oxford. He had a position teaching at the University of Cambridge, like really smart. Like honestly, if we're real, like we couldn't even get into those schools to study probably, but he got to teach and hold high offices in those schools. Maybe the name's familiar because you as a kid or, about 15 years ago, they made those movies, The Chronicles of Narnia. Like C.S. Lewis is a guy who wrote those books that eventually turned into the movies. He was a brilliant guy. And this is what he said. He brought this idea of a trilemma of Jesus is either a liar, he's a lunatic, or he's the Lord. And this is what he said. A man who is merely a man and said the sort of things that Jesus said would not be a great moral teacher. He'd either be a lunatic on the level of a man who says he's a poached egg, or else he would be the devil of hell. You must make your choice. Either this man was and is a son of God, or else a madman or something else worse. You can shut him up for a fool, you can spit on him and kill him as a demon, or you can fall at his feet and call him Lord and God. But let us not come with any patronizing nonsense about him being a great human teacher. He's not let that open to us. He did not intend to. And here's the reality again, and this is kind of hard because this is kind of like the dividing point. And we talk about tearing away every unnecessary barrier for people to find life and freedom in Jesus. Like I would say the only thing that we don't tear away is Jesus is God. Like we're not going to change on our message on that. And you're totally welcome to come. Like you can come watch online. Some of you have been watching online for weeks because you're not sure if you want to come and invest relationally with some people here because you're not sure what you believe. And so we talk about you can belong before you believe. You don't have to agree that Jesus is God, but you just need to understand we believe that and we're not going away on that. Like this is like the core of our faith. And what I'd encourage you as you're investigating faith, what I'd say first of all, like really investigate it, like put some hours into it. But investigate what Jesus did, not simply what he said. And try to look at and see even, this is something that's kind of crazy, is Jesus went into a Jewish culture as a Jew and tried to start a religion claiming to be God. And the issue with that is the Jews are monotheistic, which means that they believe there is only one true God. Like there are no other options. It's the one true God. I'm not a God, I'm the God. And that's like the worst possible situation to go into to try to start a religion. Like if Jesus would have went to like the Greek culture, the Roman culture, even at like some Eastern cultures, like if he would have went to them and said, hey guys, I'm a God, and he could do some special things, and he could do this and that and the other, and like, man, like they would respond really well to that, and they would hold him up as a God. You actually even see the followers of Jesus, when they go to Greece, they're heralded as gods, and they had to stop and say, no, hey, we're not gods. Like other cultures are really receptive to the idea of multiple gods. The Jews were not. They said, no, there's only one true God. And if Jesus was simply a moral teacher and did not claim to be God, then there was no reason to kill him. Because if you read through the account of Jesus' life, they murdered him because he claimed to be God. They didn't murder him because he claimed to be a good moral teacher. And I get some of you are not there, like you're not there yet, and you're like, I just don't know. And this is what I would encourage you to do, is just try it out. Just try it out. Just do the things that Jesus says to do. And some of you are like, I want to feel like here's the deal. You don't ever want to feel like doing the right thing, right? Like no one ever feels like eating kale. Nobody ever feels like getting up super early and working out. Some of you are like, that's totally me. Like, shut up. You're different than the rest of us. You're probably crazy in some way. But like, there's a lot of good things in your life you don't want to do, and you don't feel like you want to do them. But then after you do them, you go, man, that was actually good and beneficial. And Jesus, in his life and in his mission, he called people to a do first faith. So if you're investigating faith, you're trying things out, what I'd say is just try it out. Do what Jesus says to do and see if it works out. Because if it works out, that probably means he has a little bit more legitimacy to what he's saying and who he's claiming to be. So Jesus goes and he's talking with her. And again, you even see this idea that Jesus is not simply a life coach, because he did not offer this woman advice. And she needed advice. He didn't say, you know what's wrong? Sit down on my couch here. Why don't you lay down? Let's talk through this a little bit. Like, here's the problem. You have these problems. Your dad issues are major, and you need to work through some of this stuff. And like he didn't sit down and like psychoanalyze her, although some of us, like, we do need that. He didn't offer advice, he offered her life. Apparently, this is not a Baptist couch. Or here's the deal though. Jesus goes and he talks with her. It's okay, you can laugh about that, okay? Some of you, even in your living room, come on, you're sitting there, you're like, are we allowed to laugh at this stuff? Like, how'd they get this? Where did this beer can come from? Like, I don't know. I was going through my neighbor's trash. We'll just say that, okay? I'm just kidding. That makes me sound really creepy. Love your neighbors by protecting your neighbors, right? My neighbors wouldn't drink trash beer like that. Here's the deal. Jesus didn't offer her advice. He offered her satisfaction for her deepest needs. And then when she understood what he was talking about, she leaves everything and run back into town and says, hey, come and check out this man who's told me everything I ever did. Could he be the Messiah? Could he be the promised one? Could he be the one that all of our entire area, all of our ancestors have been waiting around, watching, trying to figure out who is this person when they come? Like, what are they going to do? And she goes, I think I met him. Like, I've been going around from man to man to man, trying to find satisfaction, trying to find everything I need. And this guy doesn't offer me the love that only takes away, because that's not love. Love doesn't pressure you. Love doesn't take things from you. Love gives. Love sacrifices. Love says, I'm going to lay down my life for your good. And she's realizing this guy has a different love than anything I've ever experienced. And she runs back into town and she says, man, you guys got to come around this guy. You got to hear from him. Now here's the reality. Jesus could have went into the city. He could have reached everybody in the city. He could have went and talked to all of them. He could have had his guys. He has, crew of guys with him. He could have said, hey guys, gather up a crowd. I need like at least a couple hundred people to be able to speak, so that way it's worth my time. But Jesus didn't care about the crowds. He cared about the one. He cared about her. And that's exactly the same heartbeat we have. One of the things that we do as a church, we walk towards the mess, and we are for the one. And that's why we tear away every unnecessary barrier for people to find life and freedom in Jesus, because you have somebody you want to find life and freedom in Jesus. I have people I want, and I hope they could find life and freedom in Jesus. And for us, it's family members, and it's neighbors, and it's people that we grew up with, and people that we used to know, and all sorts of people go, man, I wish there was a church like this in their area. I wish that they could come and experience life and freedom in Jesus. And this is what we do as a church. And for you, this is what you get to do. I want to be super clear. Like this whole series, one of the things that we're trying to do, and this is what I want you to do, even though you're online right now, like I want people to sign up to serve, to make a difference in our community. Because you, no doubt, as you've come in, you go, man, I love this place. Like the worship is incredible. The messages are good. Like the kids' ministry is phenomenal. Like everything's great. Like I love this church. But what I tell you is don't fall short of simply loving this church and not loving the community that this church is in. And you can be part with us to make a church that tears away every unnecessary barrier for people to find life and freedom in Jesus. And you might be saying, like, dude, I don't know about the Bible. Like, I don't know that you talk about this story, like, this is brand new for me. I don't get it. Like, I'm unqualified. And here's the reality. Even this woman, think about it. Jesus told her to go get her husband. She didn't want to go get her husband. And then when she understood who Jesus was, she went, and Jesus made a difference in her life, and she went and told everybody about Jesus. The only thing that qualified her was that Jesus made a difference in her life. Like that's the only thing that mattered, is that Jesus changed her life, and she went and just talked to other people about that. And this is the incredible thing. You have the power to be the reason that someone loves this church. You have the power to be the guy or the lady out in the parking team welcoming people in, and people go, man, I love that y'all tell me where to park. I love that you have a spot for me. Or maybe you're greeting people at the front door. You're working the cafe, or you're up here. If you have the ability, you're leading in worship here. You're serving with kids ministry. You're doing safety team, or you're leading in a community. You're like, you have the power because God is in you to say, hey, you can make a difference. You can be a movement in my city. You can walk towards the mess, and you can see through people's messes and say, hey, there's a mission that we have as a church, is to create a place that everyone is welcome. And create a place where anyone who's thirsty can find satisfaction. And this is what we're looking over the next 3 weeks. And it sounds crazy, and some of you are like, man, this is crazy. I was even thinking through this as we talked about going online. Like we're looking for 100 people to step up and say, I want to be part of this team reaching our city. And it seems weird because we're all online right now, and well, I mean, how can we do it? And this is what I'd say, is God's power is not confined to a building or a room. And right now, there are people, you're not plugged in anywhere. You're not making a difference. And you think that you're happy, but you have no idea how much more joy you could have as you make a difference. I think about a lady named Liz who serves with our kids ministry and our Velocity ministry. And she comes in all the time, and she talks about how, thank you so much for letting me do this. Liz, I love you. You do an incredible job. Our teams love you. You are great. You bring life into this gathering. You bring life into the kids ministry. And she comes in, and she goes, I was coming for so long, and I didn't, like, thank you for letting me do this. This is so incredible. I love doing this. So if you feel unqualified, what I'd say is, like, has Jesus made a difference in your life? And what you can do on our app, you can go on our app, which if you don't have it, download it. Search Centerpoint Florida, and you can get that. It's free. Download it. Go to Connect, and then serve, and then there's sign-ups there. Fill out the information. We need 100 people. And for you, it's easy. 100 people. 100 other people are going to do this. But I think you right now, you can make a difference. But also there's another group of people, like my heart goes out to the unqualified people because you feel like I can't do this, and I think you can. But there's another group of people that honestly, you're just uninterested in this. If I could speak kind of straight up and real talk, like if you are not walking towards the people that Jesus is walking towards, I question which Jesus you're following. Because Jesus walked towards the mess, and who I am walking towards shows who I am following. So if you come into church and you sit down and you experience something and you leave and you never have the desire to follow up and serve anyone and to love anyone, like what version of Jesus are you really following? But this is the thing, is you can start. You can sign up. You can start right now. You can make a difference. I want to be, again, super clear. We as a church, one of the things that we do, we walk towards the mess. Because we love people. And we serve people because Jesus served us. And we want 100 people to sign up. And this is the thing that's so crazy. As you even look at our graphics for this, you see like the addition, the multiplication symbol, right? And what happens when you add yourself to what God is doing, He will multiply it. And this is the powerful thing, that when you add, you step up and serve. We have 100 people who say, I'm going to step up, I'm going to serve. What God does, He multiplies it, and He will give us the ability to reach another 300 to 400 people in our gathering. Because we need to launch a fourth service sometime. You all know we've talked about building a larger auditorium we can come in, and although you can't feel it right now, and I can't feel it right now, like we fill this place out at the 9:30 and 11 o'clock every single weekend. And we need to create space for more people to find life and freedom in Jesus, and you can be part of that, so sign up. But again, for every single one of us, and this is the thing that's so crazy for all of us, is, again, the core of what we do is we walk towards the mess. We love people because Jesus loved us. And Jesus, for every single one of us, He came and He saw us in our mess, and He sat down with us and He said, I know you're thirsty. And maybe for you today, you never would have put words to that. You never would have said, yeah, I'm thirsty. But you look through your life and you go, man, I'm so thirsty. Like I've been going from relationship to relationship to relationship, trying to figure out and fill that void, that thirst I have. Maybe you're trying to fill it with stuff. Maybe you're trying to fill it with people. And maybe you're going, man, like if we just had a baby, then we'd be happy. If we just had a baby, then we'd be happy. And then you have a baby and you realize babies poop a lot and pee a lot and cry a lot. And they're a hot mess all the time. And you go, man, this didn't make our relationship any better. And you go, man, I am so thirsty. Can I tell you that thirst is the brokenness of humanity? That we were all born into, that we didn't choose, but just is reality. And Jesus came and He said, hey, humanity is broken. God looked at humanity and His heart broke for us. And He said, we will make a way. Even from the very beginning when humanity turned away from God, God said, we are going to make a way. There's a Messiah coming. There's a promised one coming who's going to restore all of humanity back to us because we love them so much. And they're walking towards you, they're going to destroy them and break them. And they're sitting in their hot mess, and they feel like it's good, and it feels good in the moment. But we know, because we know the future, it's not going to satisfy them. And God's saying, would you turn towards me? Because when you turn towards me, I'm going to trade you. I'm going to replace your mess with my best. I'm going to take your brokenness. I'm going to take everything that you think will satisfy you, and right now it feels good, and right now you want it to satisfy. I know it's enjoyable for a season, but you're going to pay for this later to some degree. Would you just turn towards me? And for some of us in your house, you're going right now like, man, I'm thirsty, and maybe it's porn. Maybe it's anger. Maybe it's a materialistic thing. Maybe it's this dysfunction. Maybe it's relationships. Maybe it's acceptance for people around you. You go, man, I am so thirsty. Can I tell you something? This is going to sound bold and you're going to feel uncomfortable. If you're sitting with a group of people, would you just look around with them and say, y'all, I'm thirsty? And you just say, y'all, like just tell them. Because here's the deal. They're all thirsty too. Just admit it to other people. This could be the starting point for what God wants to do in your life, where you just admit, I'm thirsty. You admit your brokenness, and this is what God will do. He will take your brokenness and He will give you His blessing. He will give you His best. And I think all over the place, all over the city, we want to respond, and I want to help you respond. So I want to pray. And again, this might feel weird because you're in your living room, but y'all, we are the church right now. The power of God is here with us. So would you just close your eyes, bow your heads. If you're with people, do it out of respect for people around you. If you're by yourself, and this is what I'd say, close your eyes, bow your heads, and just put your hands, palms up, and just receive what God has for you. And would you just admit, I am so thirsty? And again, I don't know what that looks like for you. Maybe it's a sexual thing. Maybe it's a material thing. Maybe it's a financial thing. Like I don't know what it looks like, but here's the deal. Just like God knew this woman, God knows you, and He knows what you need. So just acknowledge it to Him that I am thirsty. And this is what the truth of Scripture said. You keep your hands, palms up, that Jesus came to seek and to save the lost. Jesus had a mission in life, that He wanted to seek and save you. He wanted to seek and to save me because we're broken. And what Scripture teaches is that when we believe, and what we believe matters, when we believe that Jesus died in our place and rose from the dead, see, because we have all broken God's law. Not only are we broken and thirsty, like we are broken people, so we keep breaking things. And God is perfect, and He says, because you've broken my law, someone has to fix it. But the beauty of God's grace is that He said, I will fix it. He doesn't ask you to. He comes in, He said, hey, Jesus is the Messiah. He lived the life that you could not live, and He died the death that you deserved, because your punishment for what you've done is death. And Jesus said, I will go instead of them. So would you admit you're thirsty, and will you believe that Jesus is willing to satisfy that desire? Believe that He had the power to. Believe that He is strong enough. No matter what it is, He is strong enough and He is able, because that is what His resurrection proved, that He is strong and He is able. And would you just turn and trust? And you may say, I got questions. Keep your hands, palms up. I know you got questions. God's not worried about your questions. He's not afraid of your questions. He invites questions in. You keep your palms up and saying, God, I want to receive what you have because I'm tired of being thirsty. And if you have received a version of Jesus that has left you worn out and tired and beat up, that's not Jesus. Jesus never used those terms to describe Himself. He said, I'm going to give you rest. I'm going to give you comfort for your souls. If you're not being comforted by Jesus, I think you're following a different Jesus than the Jesus of the Bible. Or would you, with your palms up, just say, I want to turn and trust Jesus. I want to receive what He has, and I want to walk in the life He's given me. I want to walk in His satisfaction. And what I tell you is, if you're watching online, what you can do is you can pray out loud. You can tell Jesus that you want to turn and trust Him. You can tell Him that you know you need Him, that you want to allow His death and resurrection to pay for everything for you, but also in a real practical way. And this is not like opposite of a spiritual thing. It's just real practical. There's a button on our website, on our app that says, I've decided. Would you just click that or message us, direct message us on Instagram or on Facebook or the people in the room with you and just tell them, hey, I want to follow Jesus, because the reality is, you are thirsty and Jesus is satisfying, but sometimes we don't go to the well. And sometimes we want to go back to things that don't satisfy us. And we need people around us to remind us of how good Jesus is. So you clicking that link, you reaching out to people, we want to walk with you. We want to love you. We want to help you remember God's great love. And again, with palms up, let's just pray together as we close. We're going to sing a beautiful song about God's love. But God, thank you so much for what you're doing in our gathering. God, amidst all of this craziness in our culture, God, we can walk towards the mess. We can love people. We can embrace people. Thank you for this time, God. Thank you for this word. Thank you for your hope in yourself. And God, we want to give you our mess and accept your best. We love you, and it's in your powerful name we pray. Amen.
Sing one last song. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99, and I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah. Oh. For I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. For I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. Yes, you did. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99, and I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah. Reckless love of God. No.
we want to thank you again for joining us all over the city today, and thank this team and all the people behind the scenes allowing the church to continue to move forward today. I just want to encourage you, and we're going to be done, and then we're back live streaming at 11 a.m., and then the rest of the day, every 2 hours, you can tune in. And so seriously, share it on social media, invite somebody wherever they're at to join in with what God is doing. And this was an incredible word that Justin brought today. I just want to encourage you as a church, the significance of what Justin talked about is being on a team. Over these next few days and weeks, we're going to talk to our teams, those who are at the core of this movement, who serve as a bridge builder every week, those of you in a community group, to be community wherever God has placed you. And so I want to encourage you, reach out to your groups, check in on people, encourage people, send a text, send a phone call. The teams that you do life with every single week, like now's the time, even if there's some distance, to reach out to them. And then more than that, even reach out to those in your neighborhood, those that you do life with. And in just a practical way, make sure you're following us on social media. Make sure you've downloaded the Centerpoint Florida app. And then throughout this week, I'm going to be giving updates about what we're going to be doing as a city, and really, again, how we can be the church. So make sure you're getting those updates. Make sure that you're praying with us. Spend some time today in your home on a national day of prayer to just pray that through this, God would move in an incredible way, that God, again, would give wisdom, and that ultimately He would use this in our nation and in our world. And so we can't wait to communicate with you throughout this week as you gather in homes for community groups or digitally through community groups. And then next week, as we gather again at 9:30 a.m. and 11 a.m. But we love you guys so much. Again, if you're a part of our family and want to give, just click the donate button below. And let's be generous as a church during this season. And so love you guys. We'll see you throughout the day as we continue to hold service. And we'll be contacting you this week. We love you, and just praying for Jesus to move in your heart and guard over your heart, your mind, and your emotions during this season. We'll see you later.